Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, reconvene, yes. All right, so we had a closed session for personnel earlier. We have a motion to reconvene in open session.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And with that, do we have a motion to acknowledge the only things discussed were personnel and legal?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, would you all please join me in the flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Frazier, what do you need to lead us this morning?
All right, it is that time for us to have the reorganization of the school board for 2024. And so at this time, I will take any nominations for board chair.
I'd like to move that Elliot Jenkins remain chair.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So Mr. Jenkins, you will remain as the chair.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that support of the board. Glad to continue serving. So next up then, we will need to elect a vice chair. We have a motion for vice chair.
I would like to make a motion that Mrs. Shreves remains the vice chair, chairwoman.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Shreves. Next up, we need to appoint a clerk of the board. Dr. Frazier, you have a recommendation.
Mr. Chair, it will be my recommendation that Mr. Leach would remain the clerk of the school board.
Well received with that recommendation. We have a motion.
So
Mr.
moved.
Leach. We have a motion, we have a second.
Sorry, Mr. Leach, second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Leach.
Yes.
Happy-
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brett.
Yeah, we seriously, we appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah. Appointment of superintendent's designee. Dr. Frazier, you have a recommendation there.
Mr. Chair, it is my recommendation that Mr. Leach also serve as my president in my absence.
Okay. We have a motion to accept.
So moved.
We have a motion to accept. Mr. Leach is the designee. Do we have a second? Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Establishment of meeting dates and times. So we're currently,
Currently, the board meets on the third Tuesday of the month with the closed session beginning at 5 and the regular board meeting at 6, except for in the month of December where we meet early due to the staff presentations.
all right, we have a motion to continue with our established meeting dates and times.
So moved.
We have a second. Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All that oppose, the motion carries. Now, our consent agenda. Everyone's had a chance to do our minutes from our general meeting on the 14th. Motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
A motion to accept.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Recognitions, Dr. Frazier.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. I do have a few recognitions, and so we can start with recognizing our Appreciation Week. And so I would like Ms. Bird and Ms. Britt to come to the front.
You didn't read the script?
I know. There's something that's gonna bite you.
And we just want to say thank you for all that you do to help our schools run on a daily basis, and for your support of our students and our staff in our buildings, and for your communication with our families. We just are really appreciative. And so we have several surprises for you this week, but this starts with a proclamation that came from the governor. And so we hope that you all enjoy Principals Appreciation Week. We just thank you for all you do.
Oh, you did. Right here. Thank you.
So I'll actually have both of them come up to the podium to present their teacher and students of the month.
This month at West Point Elementary, we'd like to recognize Brian Hutt as our WPES Student of the Month. His teachers report that Brian is an amazing second grade student. He is kind to his peers and tries his best in all aspects of his academics. When not working on his own assignments, he is often helping his peers and even teachers setting up and problem solving with their technology. He's a great listener and always follows directions. We're lucky to have Brian at WPES.
Okay, our middle school student of the month is Carissa West. And her teachers and Miss Ball have turned her in for being a great kid. And they say this of her, that she comes to the help of friends and students regularly in the cafeteria and the hallway. She's helpful without being asked. She's respectful, kind, gets her work done, and always contributes positively to our classroom environment. So we appreciate Carissa very much. Our high school, our high school student of the month is Kai Adams. He was turned in for being great, and his teachers state that he helps other students make good choices. He's a great role model. He's helpful during study groups and at independent working classes, and he's just a great positive influence to all those around him, and he's turning into a great leader. So we appreciate Kai at the high school.
So at West Point Elementary, Mrs. Hicksonbaugh is our WPES Teacher of the Month. Ms. Hicksonbaugh's commitment to cultivating creativity is truly exceptional. Her thought-provoking lessons cater to every child, ranging from robotics enthusiasts to budding artists. She goes above and beyond, providing students with a diverse range of experiences that ignite their imaginations. One shining example of Ms. Hicksonbaugh's impact is her pivotal role in the school's Pointer News Network. Not only does she write the scripts, but she also takes charge of filming and editing, ensuring that our school community stays informed daily. And this invaluable opportunity for student reporters wouldn't be possible without her dedication. This month, Ms. Hicksonbaugh's influence extends beyond the classroom walls. Venture into the auditorium and town hall to witness the impressive showcase of student-created artwork, which is a testament to Ms. Hicksonbaugh's ability to bring out the best in her students. Also, I believe her art Sonia was showcased at the beginning of the board meeting tonight. In addition to her creative endeavors, Ms. Hicksonbaugh has also taken on the role of a supportive mentor for our new specials team this year. Her collaborative spirit shines through as she works seamlessly with the team, bringing unique cultural lessons to students of all grade levels.
So our Teacher of the Month is Ms. Jennifer Gay. She was nominated and chosen by the students, and I thought their comments about her were very interesting. They describe her as caring,
that her classroom is a safe environment for them, that she makes her subject relevant and interesting, and she's very up to date with her technology and everything she presents in the classroom. In addition, and I believe this is her first year in CTE, she was a special educator, so now she's in the CTE department, which she chairs. And she's also joined our leadership team. She's pivotal, instrumental, essential on our teacher leadership committee. And on Monday mornings when we have a leadership team meeting, she joins us. She's just been had a great impact, great influence, very wise, very experienced. So from a student standpoint, a teacher, administrative standpoint, she's just a wonderful, wonderful asset to the high school and middle school.
Thank you. Next, I believe we have a presentation. Mr. Matthews and Ms. Hodges going to talk to us about co-teaching.
Are you doing it?
I'll introduce you. So I asked Mr. Matthews and Ms. Hodges to present this evening. During the first month or two of school, I was able to visit their classroom, and it was a delight, not just for me, but for the students as well. They are a co-teaching pair in math, so they spend a lot of time together. And it was just fun to watch them interact. The students enjoy watching them interact. And not only that, they are very creative in their strategies, the things that they have students do in the co-teaching classroom. So I will turn it over to them. Okay, there we go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let's get things started. Yeah, this is Mrs. Hodges and I'm Mr. Matthews.
Yeah.
We've had the luxury of co-teaching for 2 years in a row now, which is great. And it's wonderful this year that she's in every class.
I mean, last year it was 3 periods a day, so we kind of go from that, and we're together all day, so I guess we see each other more than we see our spouses. Because I'm very old, and it's okay. Anyhow.
So we are working together to, I guess, use some different strategies in the classroom that can't be done with just one teacher in there. And we have a couple up here. If you want to go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to talk about a couple, and you'll talk about a couple. We use the one teach, one support, and sometimes that gets a sort of a bad rap. But at the high school level, that is really important. Because again, remember at the high school level, Mr. Matthews is an expert in mathematics. It's very different at the high school level because again, you have spent a lot of time with your subject and you're an expert in your field. My background is science, and I can kind of envision what it would feel like having someone like myself jump into your room and assert their ideas or whatever into your space. So the one teach, one support allows Mr. Matthews to present to the kids the theory, the why questions, while I'm running around doing the how to do it questions. So that's kind of how we get that balance. I'm able to quickly identify some of the needs as he is teaching. When I see that a kid's not getting it, I make a mental note. And then when we go to independent work, which is usually the second half of the class, I'm readily available to go in and point out the areas that the kids may need a little help, a little reteaching, maybe some pre-teaching, some reviewing past skills. So again, sometimes you have the one teach, one support, and you're like, well, really, what is that? But it is integral. It's a huge part of algebra. It's a huge part of the remediation process, and it allows both of us to provide tier 2 and tier 3 level interventions in real time, not at the end of the day, not a week from now, but right at that moment. So again, that's really, really important for us. The second one I'll go over is parallel teaching. We do that some. That is really helpful when we sort of split the class in half, and he is going to present one topic and I will present another, and then we sort of swap. And what that does is it breaks down the class size somewhat. We also can separate behaviors, we can separate abilities, and we can touch on just what that particular group needs at the time, and then we switch. Of course, he has to tutor me ahead of time sometimes, so the minor aspects down for one. But at year 2, I kind of got it a little bit anyhow. And again, it's been really good. I just want to say too, he's been very welcoming. He's had co-teachers in his previous places of employment, and very welcoming. And later on, we'll go over some of the ways that he did welcome me and integrate me into his classroom. I turn it over to my friend.
Yeah, so just some examples of what the one teach, one support looks like in the classroom. And oftentimes when we do that, it's not for the entire class. Like you said, the second part goes into the independent, and that's when we get some of that parallel teaching as well, or the team teaching. So we're not just using one strategy in one class period, we're breaking it up into different periods in the class. The station teaching is probably one of my favorite ones. There's lots of different ways that this can be implemented in the classroom. Example up here is we have different stations dotted around the classroom, and students are navigating those stations independently on their own time, or we're rotating around the different stations, offering support wherever needed. We can also do this where I'll teach 2 goals, Mrs. Hodges will teach 2 goals, and they can be done independently of each other, and then we'll rotate again to a different station. Oftentimes there's a 3rd station with that, where again kids are working on their own little project or some of the assignment ahead of time. And that works really well, again, splitting people up into different groups, whatever we deem necessary for that lesson. The 3rd one is team teaching. This one doesn't happen as often as maybe some of the others. And I think something that would make that method much more approachable is if we did have that shared planning, which was the plan. We'll touch on that a little bit later again. But again, the team teaching comes in as kind of that parallel teaching as well, where it doesn't last for the whole class, but there are periods where we're team teaching and we're bouncing ideas off each other and things like that. So some of the things that that really help and I guess our benefit to the students is first we're able to accommodate diversity in the sense that we can meet the unique needs of individual students much easier when there's 2 of us there working together to do that. That can be anything from translating things into another language or providing copied notes to students who need that in front of them throughout the class. I think we're better equipped to provide that support for them.
Okay, and I'll take the rapid response. My favorite part about team teaching is this. I'm impatient, as many people are today, and so I want to fix it immediately. So if there's a behavior, if there's something we don't understand, it's not the same. There only being one teacher in the classroom, particularly because every class does have some pretty high need students. We can be in real time on the kid. So I'm moving toward the kid. Mr. Matthews is moving toward the kid, and we are each able to not break our instructional pattern, and instead we are immediately identifying the need and trying to remediate as needed. Same thing with behavior. Post-COVID, everybody knows behaviors are more of a thing, and so we're able to intervene very quickly before anything escalates because there are more eyes, more hands, and just the ability to jump in much quicker and be aware of what's going on in our classroom to make sure it's positive and supportive for all students that are in our room.
Yeah, and having the extra set of eyes in there really helps us to make sure that the engagement is up, right? Especially when we're doing the smaller groups and the stations. There's more kids being active in the dialogue and the discussion that we're having in class. More kids are taking front and center stage as we can kind of do like 2 at a time, right? So it's keeping the kids more engaged in what's going on around them.
Okay, the alternative setting piece is interesting because I have a very small room that's my resource room, and the alternative setting enables me to take the kids from my classroom to test in a quieter, more conducive area for testing, and it might be more comfortable, and I have a variety of chairs, fidgets, that sort of thing, and they can go to that setting and use it. Additionally, with our Handle with Care model, if we know that there's a situation going on with a kid, maybe that kid needs a minute. So I will take the kid out to my room, the alternative setting, and we will maybe hash through it. Maybe they just need a break or those sorts of things. So that's another reason. The other thing is if it is a behavior problem, but it's not a behavior problem that maybe needs to be written up or discipline referral, that sort of thing. Maybe it's just I need a minute with an adult. Then we have that ability. Mr. Matthews will also take the students out and he will talk with them, and so that's been very effective and I think helping the number of referrals and escalating problems in the realm of behavior.
Yeah, and the other thing on the classroom management as well is that it really allows us to address those seamlessly without having to stop the instructions for other students. We don't have to pause the lesson and then try and gain everyone's attention back and start again. It happens without too much disruption to the rest of learning going on, which is great.
Okay, shared expectations, and this was sort of interesting, because, you know, initially when I was in the co-teaching last year, you know, you wonder, what's the person like? I didn't know that, you know, he's from somewhere else, you know, originally, so it's very interesting. So we had to get together and sort of learn each other and decide what the classroom was gonna be about, okay? And as such, he immediately, this year, he went overboard. When back to school night came out and the syllabuses went out, you know, the syllabi, he had a trifold and had my name on it. Imagine that. So from day one, and that's what makes it work. Day one, we needed to start day one. It's not as cool to slide into another teacher's classroom mid-year or 2 weeks in, but on day one, my name was on the syllabus, my name was on the door, and Mr. Leach, a desk for me, because I asked for that. And that way, when the kids rolled up in there, it wasn't like, oh, there's Miss Hodges, the SPED teacher. Instead, I became the teacher. I'm in the room, and now all the kids will come to me, not just the students that know me as their special education teacher. And that has made just a world of difference. And you'd be surprised what the addition of a desk and your name on the door means to kids and their expectations of me and Mr. Matthews. They see us as equals in the room, and you know, they expect us to be their teacher, both of us, and be there for them. And they know that our expectations are the same. So it's really nice. So we're excited about that.
One thing to keep in mind when we are co-teaching is that it doesn't really make our jobs easier to be co-teaching. There's still grades to be graded, there's still lesson plans to be adjusted, and all of that. And Mrs. Hodges has also her caseload as well with all the students that she's looking after and their needs, and they can come up anytime during the day when maybe her kid needs some specific needs addressed at the moment. We're very fortunate this year, she hasn't been called out to cover a class anymore. So that happened a few times in the first year, and we talked about that. And I think our needs were met. Our needs were met this year by not having that happen anymore. So she is in the classroom more, which is wonderful. And I think that's a really important piece to make this work. That she has to be present, and give me the opportunity to do that. So I'm very grateful that that's something that's improved over last year.
Yeah, and also that he's the most understanding, because again, when you're dealing with the special education population, I can get called out as a trusted adult at any time. And so, you know, we try to work through the times and plan as best we can for meetings, IP meetings and things where I need to be pulled out. And so we do our very, very level best to try to minimize those disruptions. And every year it seems to get a little bit better. So that's great. And shared planning. Shared planning is basically the idea that we would have liked to have had a co-planning period that was in the master schedule, but for unforeseen reasons, instructional needs came first, and so we were placed in other instructional areas, and we were unable to have a shared planning. I think if you had a shared planning, certainly it would be a little bit easier with the co-teach and kind of being on top of things, but we seem to be able to make it work thus far. I think somebody new coming in, shared planning would be really important. We had 3 periods last year to get used to one another. We also hang out at basketball games sometimes.
That's right.
Right? So that's worked well as also. But just so you guys know that the shared planning is important, even though we don't have it this year. I think certainly from the jump, you know, new teachers with new people, because again, next year the numbers don't seem to indicate we'll be together all day. Next year, it's looking like I'll be somewhere else, maybe within part of the day. And that will be something that we'll all have to work through, because there's a level of trust when you let somebody into your space. Think about where you work. If you have somebody just sort of appear in your space, you kind of have to develop a relationship and learn to each other's vibe and how you're going to work in classroom.
Yeah. So and to touch on that, I think going forward, we'll have more teachers teaming up to co-teach. It's going to be really important that they're given that opportunity, not just for the shared planning, but also at the beginning of the year to really do some team bonding activities, get to know each other really well. So that trust is there when they enter into the classroom together. that they're able to work cohesively from the get-go, because that's so important in the classroom. And we need constant affirmation.
Yes, we do, like everyone else. And so we keep telling each other, you're the greatest math teacher ever. And you're supposed to say,
Oh, you're the greatest.
And the other thing that I will point out that we talk about quite a bit is kids just naturally nowadays, I mean, they think they can do math. And it's our job to tell the kids every single day, you can do math. And if you can't, Desmond's can. But you do it first, and then Desmond. But anyhow, so again, thank you for the opportunity to share with you our experience, and thank you for the opportunity to share my time with Mr. Matthews. He's a stellar math teacher. I'm so impressed with him, and last year it was so much fun getting to know him. So,
And I'm very nervous about next year if I don't have Shelly by myself. It's gonna look like at West Point, but we'll see how it goes. So if you guys have any questions or anything,
yeah.
that'd be cool.
No questions, but just the constant affirmation. I will say I think it's great what you're doing. I think we have I'll talk a little bit about our strategic plan, right? You know, we talk about, you know, having relationships and being student-centered. It's obvious you're doing that. Your nimbleness and you're open to change, I have no doubt you're innovating, and excellence too. But I think, you know, I won't talk about the plan because we've got a very much more photogenic superintendent who does videos on that.
So like it on this.
Yeah. As I'm sitting here, the other thing I'm thinking about, is so great about it, is like the whole thing we're trying to do is prepare kids for what's after school, right? I think you guys are obviously a great example of what partnership and collaboration is. And I think kids have to learn that. I mean, some adults still need to learn that, right? But I think it's great what you're doing. I think you can continue to build on it.
And one thing we didn't mention too, because we talk a lot about the special ed piece, but keep in mind if I'm providing some, you know, tier 2, tier 3 instruction, it enables him to reach the kids that need to move on quicker. So it not only is a benefit to my clientele, but it also benefits the kids that need more. He's able to provide more while I'm doing the how-to. He's able to answer the whys for the higher level, you know, thinking and what have you for some of the more advanced students. So that it's a win-win for them as well.
I just want to say thank you. This makes me so proud. It makes me feel good as the former special education director in the school division. I did. But I remember when we first sent our first group of teachers to go to training about collaborative teaching and co-teaching. Because our model here in West Point was all about collaborative. So we were pulling students out all day long at the elementary school and at the middle school, high school. And I remember at first there was quite a bit of resistance. But now it's just what we do. And we know it's what's best for children. Like Ms. Hodges said, Mr. Matthews is the content expert. But Ms. Hodges is that expert on modifications and accommodations and making sure that every child in that classroom can truly understand and access the curriculum and content. And so knowing that we are doing what's best for children now, and that this team is rocking and rolling with it, it makes me feel really good, and I'm so proud of the two of you. So thank you for what you are doing for our students every day, and thank you for this relationship, because it really matters. So,
Great, thank you very much.
So next we move on to our reports. From one great team to Mr. Hudgens is going to talk to us about some other teams that had some accomplishments this fall.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Appreciate that. Yes, I was right here. Yeah, perfect. Before I get started, I just want to take the time to thank each and every one of you for trusting me with the success of the athletics department here at West Point. It's definitely not something that I take lightly, or I just think, it's be easy. It's definitely not easy. I can guarantee that. And I really appreciate and thank you all for trusting me with that. As I've gotten to get into my role here as athletic director at West Point, I've had a lot of conversations, a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. And I just wanted to say how great of a school division West Point really is. Coming from a different school division in a different area of the state, coming back down to here, closer to home. I'm from Matthews, so it's not quite home, but basically home. This school division has really been a breath of fresh air. Like it really has. The work that has obviously been done to create the kind of relationships that the kids really have is something that I really haven't seen in a lot of other school divisions. So I want to give kudos to you all and obviously all the staff and faculty in the actual school division. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and review our fall sports, starting with all of our teams. We don't have quite as many teams as last year. Last year we did have esports, but we just honestly didn't have the student interest in order to be able to field a team. We were trying, Casey Crump was really trying to get students involved, get them excited, but at the end of the day, we just didn't have the numbers to be able to make it happen. So it was unfortunate, but we did end up having quite a few other teams, obviously cross country, boys and girls, JV and varsity football, which the JV part is not something that a lot of other divisions around us can say that they have. It's disappointing to see, but I'm really glad to see that we have it here at West Point. Golf, as well as JV and varsity sideline cheer. Same thing there. A lot of times you don't see any JV cheering teams in a lot of school divisions nowadays. Theater and one act, which I'm really going to touch on later because they had an extremely good season this year. And then lastly, a JV and a varsity girls volleyball. So I just wanted to highlight our fall coaching staff. This is our paid coaching staff right here. Without our coaching staff, we wouldn't have athletics in general. So all of these people right here are just wonderful people at the end of the day. Coaching doesn't pay the bills. I'm sure, if any of you have coached before or maybe, have a spouse or something that's a coach, you know very well that, we're not getting paid millions of dollars. We're not in the NFL, the NBA, or anything like that. So for all these people to take the time out of their day to try and help mold our student athletes, and guide them for not only while they're in school, but, for preparing them for what comes after school. We couldn't be more thankful for all of our coaches. I'm just going to go and highlight a couple here. For cross country, we have Chris Young and Ben McAllister. They are a wonderful tag team duo. I like to say that they're kind of like peanut butter and jelly because they mesh so well together. What one might be weak in one area, the other is really strong in, and vice versa. So they complement each other really well. For our football staff, that is nowhere close to the total amount of coaches that we have. We have a lot of volunteer coaches as well. We have a great football coaching staff. I couldn't ask for any better. For golf, it was really just a one-man show with Coach Joel Mooney, but he did a wonderful job with the golf team. We didn't see as much interest in golf as we did in the previous year, but the work that Joel was really doing both in the building and with the kids to try and garner that interest, it really showed. Because I had a lot of the kids, after the season started saying, hey, can I join golf? What's going on with golf? I heard about it from, Coach Mooney, or I heard about it from, this kid or that kid. So really great job by Joel there. Of course, we have Miss Bev Hammond as our theater one-act coach. She's been there for quite some time, from what I understand. She's amazing, honestly. If I didn't have Bev with theater and one-act, I would have been lost, to be completely honest with you. She knew exactly what to do. I honestly don't know if there's another person in Virginia that knows theater and one-act as well as Beth does. She's really great with it. For JV and varsity sideline cheer, we have one coach, and she did an absolutely amazing, stellar job with getting our spirits just increased throughout the school day, in the school. The amount of spirit days that we had in the fall was a lot, and I love spirit days, so that was something I really love to see. So very grateful that we have Holly there leading our fall cheering staff. For volleyball, we have Coach Teresa Lathan and Cheryl Ware, both two phenomenal coaches. And lastly, Joe Fallis is the varsity head coach for volleyball. All right, moving in, I'm going to break down kind of each sport, how they did, give a little bit of a season overview, and then go into more of the individual accolades or awards that the team might have gotten. Also, any of these pictures that you see here were taken by Mr. Jim Agnew. He's the father of one of our students, and he is absolutely phenomenal. If I did not have Mr. Agnew, Facebook would be a whole lot more bare. I can guarantee you that, because I'm not a picture person myself, and the quality of the pictures that he takes are really just outstanding. He even made a GIF or a GIF, however you want to say it, of Elijah Atkins making a touchdown catch in King Queen, I believe it was. So just to have somebody like that is willing to volunteer their time to give us such professional quality photos is something that I couldn't be more thankful. But anyway, going back to cross country, our boys team, they ended up placing a 4th in both the district and the region. The girls ended up faring a little bit better. They placed 2nd in both the region and the district, which qualified them, to be able to go to the state competition, where they ended up placing 7th. So we had a few all Tidewater District honors for the cross country team. Lena Sanders, Envy Nguyen, and Anna Jenkins all received all Tidewater District honors. And spoiler alert, that's not the only time you're going to see those 3 ladies' names because they are phenomenal and they really helped carry our girls team. For the all region honors, shocker again, Lena Sanders, Envy, and Anna. Also qualifying for states was Quinn Agnew and Aiden Elwanger. It's the top 15 that go to states, and they ended up qualifying at the region meet, whereas the entire boys team did not. So moving on to states, we actually did really, really well at states. Envy was 1 place off of placing all state. As you can see, she got 16th. It is the top 15 that get all state honors. So she was pretty bummed, but the future is really, really bright for the cross-country program, as we didn't have that many seniors, not at all, and especially those 3 ladies right there. Envy, I believe, is a freshman, Anna's a freshman, and Lena is a sophomore. So the future of the program is looking really, really bright. Same thing with Quinn. He's only a freshman as well. So those places right there, hopefully when I come to see you guys next year for the fall sports review, I'm hoping to see some top 10, top 5 finishes up there, especially for Envy. I believe she was, I want to say, 5 seconds away from breaking the all-time school record for cross country during the region meet. So she's really got her eyes set on that. So I'm hoping next year I can bring that good news to you guys. All right, so moving on to our golf team. And next up, excuse me. Our golf team was a really fun-loving group. I really enjoyed spending time with them, riding around on golf carts at these golf meets. There is nobody in this world that can make me laugh as much as this young man right here, Aiden Sellers. He is absolutely hilarious. Anything he said. He also drives a squatted truck. I don't know if you guys know what a squatted truck is, but me and him like to go back and forth on that. So we ended up, sharing a lot of laughs. So, this golf team was a group of really dedicated, hardworking, fun-loving student athletes. They really were. They didn't have as many athletes participating as other sports, and I think that's just due to the nature of golf, right? It's hard. I played baseball, my entire high school career and all that kind of good stuff, and I'm awful at golf. There's something about that little ball sitting right there that is just, I don't understand it. But, they made the most of it. Everyone on the team improved their score during the season, so nobody regressed throughout the quality of the season. So that goes to show me that what Coach Mooney was doing with the athletes was working. So we really love to see that. And the team themselves are really looking forward to growing the team. As I said earlier, the kids are all going around talking to everybody in the school like, hey, you should really come out and try golf. Like, I know it's golf, it's going to be hard, but it's really fun. Like, we really enjoy doing it. So to be able to have student athletes that are almost ambassadors, for the athletic department as a whole, just really goes to me to point towards Coach Mooney's, work with them and how he's been able to mold them. Moving on to football. I love this picture right here. I think it's an extremely beautiful picture with the backdrop. That's why I wanted to take up as much space as possible. Football ended up having an 8-4 record on the season, so they had a pretty successful season. We got 2nd in the district only because King William is in our district and they beat us, unfortunately. No idea why King William is in our district. They should not be.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Literally everybody I talk to has that same exact reaction. Like, nobody knows why. So hopefully one day we'll get them to chew on out of there so we can take over that top spot. But the football team had a really, really great year. This was supposed to be a great year for the football team. We had 17 seniors on the football team. And then, you know, at the end of the season, it was really something to see. Obviously, you know, seniors are going to get upset, you know, on their last game, right? You know, it's a lot of different emotions, but to me, the level of which, you know, they kind of internalized it was impressive to me. Like, I've seen athletes cry, you know, get upset about playing their last game, but to me, it was more. I mean, the entire team kind of surrounded them and kind of made them feel safe and supported, if that makes sense. So, kudos to Coach Lawson for kind of setting that culture and a climate to where, you know, everybody feels a part of the team, and, you know, having somebody leave is like losing a friend or losing a brother or something of that nature. In the region, we ended up getting a third. Okay, we lost to Northumberland in the regional semifinals. It was a great game. We just didn't have the firepower to pull it out. We had a lot of all Tidewater District honors for the football team, as you can see right there. So the first team all district, we had Gage Davis as the quarterback, Eric Reed as the center, Tazwell Ray, you're going to see his name quite a lot on here because he gets a lot of honors, rightfully so. Elijah Atkins, the running back, and Dayton Milton for the tight end. For the second team, all district for offense, we had Josh Stampy, as I like to call him, as the offensive lineman, and then Jack Lewis, getting two names on there for running back and kick returner. For your defense side, shocker, you have Taz again, as you know, the defensive lineman, Delon Randall and Elijah Atkins as your linebackers. And then lastly, for the second team defensive, we had Devin Davenport and Josh Stampy as defensive linemen, Robin Stanley as a linebacker, Jack Lewis as a defensive back, same thing with Calvin Robinson, and lastly, shocker again, Taz is the punter. He does it all. We had still a lot of all-region honors as well to be awarded to the football team. Eric Reed got all first-team center, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight this now. He also was the only athlete in West Point to receive any type of all-states recognition. He received the all-state second-team center, with West Point. Shocker, Taz is on there again. Same thing with Elijah. But as you can see, you know, football had a really, really successful season, both at an individual level and as a team level, and really that's all that we could ask for, you know, as a department. All right, now moving on to theater and one act. I wish Bev was sitting right here because she would be vibrating the seat because she's so excited about that. They ended up placing first in both regions and the super regionals, which from talking to Bev, that's nothing new. She's gotten, you know, them that quite a few times. But the one thing that's always eluded her has been that state title. She second was the highest that the one act team has ever placed here at West Point. So extremely, extremely successful season. The play that they were performing was called The Spirit of Life, and I had the opportunity to observe it while we were doing regions because we hosted regions. And it really was a phenomenal, phenomenal play. The cast members were all just handed in phenomenal performances, and I'm going to highlight a couple here in just a second. And that's a really hard play to do, especially in the climate that we're kind of in right now. But they all treated it extremely professionally. I never heard, you know, of any kind of anybody say anything inappropriate or anything of that nature. And they all really enjoyed it. And I think they all gained a little bit more perspective than they had previous, you know, kind of delving into that subject matter and really learning it in order to be able to perform it. So for the regions and super regions, we had some outstanding actors. Trey Jones and Ariana Adams received outstanding actors for the regional performance. Coach Hammond received the Outstanding Director Award for both regions and super regionals. And then lastly, for their state competition, they were the state champion runner-ups. It was an extremely, extremely close race for that, you know, number one spot. And Gabrielle Davis and Ariana Adams were both given Outstanding Actor honors during the state competition. So we were really proud of their one-act team. They really they killed it this year. Alrighty, moving on to sideline cheer. Excuse me, fall sideline cheer. This group of ladies was absolutely phenomenal. We could not ask for any better ambassadors for our school because really to me that's what they are. They are ambassadors for the athletic department and for the school as a whole. You know, they're really in charge of creating that kind of atmosphere of support and inclusivity for all of athletics. And they really did that. You know, they didn't just leave it to only football. They went and they supported volleyball. They went and they supported golf. They went and they supported cross country, right? So that's something that I love to see, and that's kudos to Coach Laura for getting that done. They cheered at every home game, and like I said, they helped set that culture of positive enthusiasm because from what I've seen, kids like to be enthusiastic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they always like to be positively enthusiastic, if that makes sense. But our cheerleaders really helped to kind of redirect, anybody in the stands that might have been, saying something they shouldn't have, like, hey, that's not how we're supposed to do things around here. This is the West Point way. This is how we're expected to do things. They also helped organize and run 2 of our pep rallies at the school, which were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, especially the blackout one that they did was really, really cool to watch. They completely shut all the lights off, and they had like glow-in-the-dark sticks all on their bodies, kind of like skeletons, and the cheer. Yeah.
Dishing was great.
Yep. The staff members and the cheerleaders all participated, doing a Thriller dance to Michael Jackson's Thriller. And I think everybody in the school could agree that, it was really something to watch. So we thank them for that. They also participated in some community service outreach at the Three Rivers Health and Rehab Center. Excuse me. And our cheerleaders, they truly help point our Pointer community in the right direction, and we could not be any more thankful for them. Alrighty, moving on to volleyball. So their season in review, the varsity team went 10-9 overall. They placed second in the district, only to Middlesex. This is the first one. They placed 5th in the region. They ended up playing the region champions, actually, in their first region matchup, which was Rappahannock. So kind of got a tough luck of the draw there by playing the region champions, but it is what it is. But looking back from last year, they were 4th in the district, and now this year they were 2nd in the district. So there's obviously a lot of improvements, going on in the volleyball team. We have a lot of all-district honors to celebrate for them as well. For first team all-district, Gabby Stover was our sole one awarded. And then for second team all-district, we had Savannah Swinski, who was a senior, as well as Emma Mixon and Morgan Wagner. Just wrapping up here, just a quick little update on strength and conditioning in the weight room. If you did not know, I am now I don't know what the official title is, to be honest with you. I just call myself the weight room guy. So I'm the weight room guy, if you didn't know that. So I've been working with the athletes a lot. One of the big things that I've been doing is getting this program right here going. It's called Team Builder. In years past, coaching strength and conditioning, I've used this program quite a bit. And this has really helped streamline programming for all of our teams. So if you don't know what I mean when I say programming, I'm talking about what are you doing when you come in the weight room? What are you squatting? Are you benching? Whatever it is. This program right here really helps me out a ton. Before, I was doing all my programming in Google Sheets, and that takes 10 years, to put it lightly. But this right here, it allows me to make a program for each specific team. There's an app that is associated with it, so the students just download it right on their phone. They make their own profile, and then I can input them into whatever program that I, so deem fit. So if I have a softball athlete, they go right into the softball program. If I have a football athlete, they go right into the football program. They have that app right there. I upload the program. They have a calendar that pops right up. Today, January 16th, I have this, that, and the other to do. It allows them to track their sets, reps, and weight, so that way we can track it over time. We can look at day 1, you came into the weight room and you were only squatting, 50 pounds, and now after day 200, you're squatting 100 pounds. So we can kind of really measure and track that, growth over time of our student athletes. So this is something that I'm only going to use more and more. There's also a leaderboard function built into the program itself, so students can kind of compete against each other in order to get that top spot. And I can make that rep-based, I can make that weight-based, whatever I deem fit, for the exercise. So really looking forward to using this more and more with our student athletes. I've been working really closely with Dr. Frazier and company on some more weight room improvements. So stay tuned for those. Hopefully I'll be able to provide you an update here soon. But just know that good things are coming, and I'm really excited. So thank you to Dr. Frazier and Mr. Leach for working with me on that. I really appreciate it. I just want to give a huge thank you. I tried to add as many people as I could remember on this list, but as you can see, it's a huge list, and for good reason so. Athletics is, I really didn't understand the scope of the entirety of athletics when I first started, if I'm being honest with you, but now that I've had some time, under my belt to get in the swing of things, it's such a huge program. And if we don't have the support and the help of all these people and more, it's not going to operate to the best of its ability. So I really want to give a huge shout out and thank you to a couple people specifically. Miss Paula Burse and Miss Etta Fay are ticket takers. I'm sure you guys know Miss Paula. She's been here forever, it seems like. But she's absolutely phenomenal. I've never heard her complain except when I tried to move her out of the gym. She didn't like that one, but we moved her back into the gym, so she was much happier after that, so she could talk to some people. But I never have to worry. I never have to, say, hey, who's my ticket taker for today? I don't know. Like, I've gotten to the point now where I don't even have to check in with Miss Paula. I know she's going to be there. She's got it handled. And especially when it comes to money, I don't like to play around with money. That's what gets people in a lot of trouble. It's really just helpful to have somebody like her that I can count on and depend on to be able to handle that aspect of things. Mr. Lawrence Simpkins, our football announcer. From what I understand, he's also been announcing for quite some time here at West Point. Touchdown for the Hornets. I should have done it when I was doing the announcing, but I feel like I would, do him shame or something. Joel Mooney, I talked about him earlier as one of our coaches, but he also helped, did every single game as the clock operator for varsity football. Same thing with Shane Donahue. He did every single volleyball game. They just made it to where I never had to worry about a clock operator. And in basketball season, I'm seeing that worrying about clock operators is something you really have to worry about. So to have those two to take that load off of me was just something that I couldn't be more thankful for. Miss Winston, as I like to call her, Miss Sheffield, our bookkeeper. I love her absolutely to death. I could not ask for anything better. Our Athletic Boosters Club, the school board, obviously, thank you all. Our administration side, thank you all for always supporting us and having our back and being at every game. Couldn't ask for anything better. April Langford, I really need to give a huge shout out to her. She is absolutely phenomenal. Like anything I ask of her, it's okay, no problem. Really that easy. It's not even a question, a second thought. She really is absolutely phenomenal, and she wears so many different hats at the school. She teaches 2 classes. She's an athletic trainer, and she's my assistant athletic director. So she's juggling a lot, but she does it exceptionally well, and she knows so much, 1, when it comes to athletics, and 2, about the school. A lot of the times, she's my first person that I go to if I have a question, because she already knows. Our facilities and maintenance staff, I wanted to thank them for always making sure our fields were properly maintained, especially our football field. I think our football field was actually really beautiful this year, and especially right now, the green grass is really starting to come out. So thank you to them. Our West Point Police Department for keeping us safe during games, and obviously the West Point community for coming out and supporting us always. And lastly, Mr. Jim Agnew, I wanted to throw him on there for those amazing pictures that you saw throughout this presentation. And many more. I tried not to leave anybody off, but as I said earlier, the list could just keep going and going and going with the amount of people that support athletics and make us great. So lastly, we have a little recap video that our communications team put together for us from the fall. So we're going to go ahead and end with that. Don't y'all get too loud. I might blow my whistle or something. I love the faces in these pictures. Absolutely love the faces.
come in and has rolled his sleeves up and has been a great addition. And also kudos for going in there, pointing in the right direction.
That's
So-
right.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good.
Several times, right? Yeah.
Had my thinking cap on for that one.
No, that's good, thank you, appreciate it. I think so many times athletics get viewed as extracurriculars, but we know, I think everyone knows it's so much more than that, so appreciate everything you're doing for us.
Thank you all.
All right, items under study. Talk to us about it.
I was gonna say, that's probably time everybody leaves.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much. Have a good night. Bye, Shelley.
Thank y'all.
Good night. Thank you.
I appreciate the rest of you guys staying. Thank
And then they all leave.
you. Yeah. Especially you.
They're like, oh, we can't go.
I wanted to bring to you, at the very beginning of the new year, we sent a calendar survey out, which really I wish we would have probably done that more frequently over the past several years to get feedback. The process in the past was we would create a couple of drafts and then send it to our advisory committees and get 8 or 9 different sets of feedback and then try to compile that all into one. So this was nice to get everything in one spot. So I do have some reminders for you as we kind of move forward of this current calendar. So currently we are operating on a 177-day calendar. And then you can see the breakdown of 169 full days, 8 half days, and you can see the instructional hours. As a reminder, the state either requires you to do 180 days or 990 hours. So obviously we're going by the 990 hours. Even today and the early release last week, we're still working on instructional hours. Staff came back on the 8th and students started on the 19th. This year we did have a 1.5 day fall break that revolved around Crop Carnival weekend. You get the full week off of Thanksgiving, 2 weeks off of winter break. Spring break is coming up the first full week in April, which is the 1st to the 5th. Graduation is set for May 24th, and then the last day of school right now is May 31st. So that's kind of just a recap on what our calendar looks like for this year. Again, we sent the survey out, and this was the breakdown of who completed the survey. 243 responses, a large majority were parents and guardians, and then we did have 68 staff members that also voted out, which is a pretty good number. Something I was happy with, it was about 90% satisfaction rate. There was one person, which I apologize to whoever that person is, who's very satisfied with the calendar. But I would think if we're at 90% satisfaction rate, I think we're doing pretty good. So I was appreciative that we got so much feedback, and glad to see that it was relatively positive. You do have at your seats a copy of all the different comments. So it looks like this. Those are just all the comments from, they had an opportunity to respond to things about this current calendar, and then also things looking ahead to next year's calendar. So I just pulled a few things out. Obviously, it is harder when you get 240 responses to meet everyone's desires, but some things they mentioned were they really like the Thanksgiving winter breaks. They like those, the full week of Thanksgiving and the 2 weeks of winter break. Early release days, they were not a fan of, and I think that came from both the parent side, getting kids to school and things like that, and also from the teacher side, that as we provided a work day, really the 2 hours at the end of the day wasn't a whole lot for them to get stuff done with all the things they have on their plate. So some of the feedback was to add more teacher work days instead of those half days. Keep those those work days around the end of the quarter. They all like the fall break, having that day and a half. There were a few comments asking about moving it from Crab Carnival weekend, simply because they wanted to also travel, but also be at Crab Carnival. So those families that were kind of torn with what they wanted to do. A few asked for it to be a little more user-friendly on the website. Some comments were to alter the morning start times, which was to move middle school and high school. We started at 7:40 now, and they mentioned to move back closer to like 8 o'clock or 8:30. Some also mentioned year-round schooling to go to that model. And then there were a few that were still holding on to the post-Labor Day start, and they mentioned that as something that they would like to see come back. We also asked several different questions about aligning to other school divisions around us, having equal quarters for the different 9 weeks, looking at work days, fall break, Thanksgiving break, and you kind of see the breakdown of where those fell. Like I mentioned earlier, Thanksgiving break and winter break were big hits this year, as you can see from the feedback. Aligning to other school division calendars was not as important to others, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But you know, all in all, it's pretty good feedback to have. And again, having that survey where it's all in one place was much easier as we try to chart the calendar. This was more about the early release days. So those 49 and 47 that somewhat favor or strongly favor to reduce that, that's about 40%. So they would like to reduce those. And when you look at increasing number of early release days, again, it was about 40%, 41% that said they would oppose that. So that was, when I looked through the comments, those early release days came up a lot to try to get rid of them. Or move them to a weekend, which I would be worried that if we move them to a weekend, that it's just gonna be it's gonna turn into a full day as well. So again, some things, it really mirrored what the feedback was from this year about the early release days. Several asked that we could finish them before Memorial Day. And I did not go back and break that out between whether it was teachers or parents, but I know that just came up several times. Really wanted us to keep in the long breaks in November, December. Some asked to move graduation from Memorial Day weekend. So we did that, I think, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we moved it to the Friday before. Some asked to move it up an earlier week, which would be 2 weeks prior to when school's out. Some asked to move it back to the last day of school, or even just not have it on a weekend and do it on a Thursday or something like that. You can read through those comments. Others asked for another break between the winter break and spring break. So we have that long break from next year, maybe January 6th through the latter half of March or early April. At a teacher work day after winter break. So this year, our staff came back on January 2nd, and they'd asked, you know, if that happens again, provide a work day to kind of get them back into groove of school. And you'll see the calendar may not align to that this year, but we can talk about that. Teachers also mentioned that they like to have the PD done during faculty meetings. So that's something that Ms. Bird and Ms. Bird have been doing this year. Each month they have a little snippet of PD as opposed to having it during half days or things like that to allow more teacher work time. So they like that. And then again, I mentioned that earlier about moving the work days to a Monday or a Friday. I think that was more from a parent perspective. It was easier for them as with work if they had to be off. It was just easier for them. Okay. So in your packet, you have draft calendars. Very similar to this year, and I'll highlight some things on those calendars. It is based on, so again, we are operating on a 177-day calendar. So the calendars you have in front of you are based on 175 days, which is a big difference compared to where we were just a few years ago, 180 days. However, these calendars actually provide more instructional time at 175 days than we do this year at 177 days, simply because of all the half days. So it would be 174 full days, with one early release day being the last day of school. And that would give you an additional 8.6 instructional hours. So even though we're cutting down days, we're adding more instructional time within the calendar. It's crazy to think, but new teachers will come back on August 5th, and all teachers come back on August 6th with a start date of Monday, August 19th. Again, I mentioned the one early release day. We do have built in there 4 work days for teachers, one at the end of each quarter, and then an additional one on election day. That's been a day we've had off, and we would provide that a virtual work day for staff as we have a poll in place to keep them out of the building. Fall break would be 3 days this year instead of 3.5, and that would be able to, in order to provide an additional work day in January. Thanksgiving break would remain the same as a full week. Winter break would be 2 weeks again, and students and staff would return on January 6th. So there was not a built-in work day, and that was simply because we were coming back on the 6th as opposed to the 2nd this year. Spring break is really the main difference between the 2 calendars. So you can see in draft 1 it is March 31st through April 4th, and then in draft 2 it is April 7th through the 11th. In the past, once we moved spring break away from being tied to Easter, we always talked about it would be the first full week in April. So that would be April 7th through the 11th. But a majority of the divisions around us are going March 31st, April 4th. So that would just be something with one wants to do. There were different thoughts on this. We talked to planning council last week. Some members of planning council said since we've expressed before that it was always tied to the first full week in April, that it's important to try to look at that. And then we also heard from staff that thinking of having an extra week before SOL, since all the SOLs now are kind of pushed up. So they start the very first week of May, to be able to give them that time. So that would just be up to your pleasure on what you want to do for spring break. Either way, that this year we do have an early release day in April, so that's a long time from spring break through the end of the year. So that would just be something that we would look at if we have time to build in. We can always offer another early release day or work day, and then with that. So it is just understudy. It's a lot to think about, but that would be something we'd like to hopefully act on in February. We can get your feedback. We can provide additional drafts, make edits to these, share with our leadership team again. But we wanted you to have the information we have and the survey results.
It's really nice to see the number of people who actually took time to give feedback on this. It was delightful.
And
To see that
in
that
the
many
comments, a
people
lot of people said thank you for asking for feedback.
So that was great. I would like to see us be able to do something between spring break and school's end, because you guys have done a great job of putting calendars together. And I do think it is a long time. And so if there's any way that we could consider that, I just think that's worth some consideration. We could do something between those two.
Did they say why the area, other schools are not doing that first full week of April? Why are they changing
I
it
thought region
to?
3, everyone was like, hey, yeah, well,
Yeah, because the governor's school and New Horizons, I know just from a Gloucester perspective, I know all of them, we've all aligned with that first full week of April so that there wasn't that issue.
I think they're just looking at the fact that it's a split week.
Yeah.
So I think that Monday is the 31st and then the first is on Tuesday. So some people are saying, oh, well, that's the first week of April.
Yeah, in my conversations with folks, they were going back and forth, and then right before when you guys were in close, I got this from a neighboring division that tried to compile different divisions. If you want me to name the different divisions of, they're going March 31st, April 4th, it's Caroline, Charles City, Chesterfield, Dinwiddie, Essex, Maggie Walker, the Regional Government School, Matthews, Middlesex, Prince George, Richmond City, and New Kent are all now, as of right now, March 31st. We're between March 31st and April 7th, and Goochland is April 7th. York County is April 7th, and I don't know what officers.
For next year, who knows? I don't think they've approved.
And I know Region 3 superintendents meet on Thursday, so there may be some conversation about it.
I just know that we used to run into issues with our athletics
Yeah,
when we would be on different
that, Reggie.
spring breaks, yeah, that they would have a game, but it was during spring break, or they would still have class at, these other.
I'd be curious to know why. That sounds like interpretation of when the first.
First full week is pretty.
We have to split hairs
I
over
really
it.
feel like that leaves a lot to be questioned.
Yeah, I mean, but like, why are we splitting hairs over it?
Mm.
That should be an easy alignment.
And I believe Kate William is looking at the 31st through the 4th as well.
Did you say Matthews and Middlesex? Did you list that?
Yeah, both of them are March 31st through April 4th. So it looks like a lot of the teams will be May
Yeah,
play.
Does bridging go off of New Kent's schedule?
and they're doing March 31st.
And next year will be the first year they start performing more, or before Labor Day as well. So,
Yeah, I'm looking.
and I can share this document with you, just so you guys can see the look.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the feedback. It sounds like taking a much more comprehensive approach to getting feedback from everyone. Also wondered too, I don't know if you've ever thought about, I'm sure we are now, the state mandates on attendance, but as we create our calendar, interesting to see how we can affect that, right?
out somewhere and giving 4 days.
I mean, I do agree, half days they're difficult to navigate. From an educator's perspective, it's not really a whole lot of time, like it's nice, but it's not a whole lot, and then from a parent perspective, it's just an awkward time to try to figure out as far as childcare goes, so I get what they're saying with that. Are we talking about for this year, them wanting that extra day between the drought, or were we just talking about for next year?
For when?
Sorry, we call it the drought.
I was like, plenty of rain here recently.
No days off between.
No, we have one built in.
Okay, alright.
So we have a half-day building, I believe it's April 25th this year. But next year, depending, and that was the other conversation around spring break, if you go March 31st, April 4th, then you're going from the 7th through May 30th without a break. But we do have the additional 8.6 hours, so if we wanted to, again, that is lowering the number of days, but we still have an additional 3 hours of instructional time if you want to add a day.
Yeah, I was looking at this from what you sent, just kind of looking at the calendar for that extra days, like maybe May 2nd would be a good kind of halfway between spring break and the end of the year.
And when did you say SOLs? Just from
I feel like they start earlier and earlier,
Yeah.
so they would probably start around that May 1st time frame. So I think it would, my personal opinion would be depending on when you do spring break. If you do spring break March 31st, April 4th, you may be able to do it a little earlier. And then if you do 7th through 11th, you may want to push it back a little bit, just to, go 3 weeks or whatever and then have a little break. And that will be the same with the week in March, depending on when spring break falls, then that work day can be moved up to or go back. So you're not out in multiple back-to-back weeks. So again, look at it, look at the comments, if there's anything else you'd like to adjust, if you can just let us know prior to the February meeting, and then we can hopefully narrow down to one draft and bring it back. So in the meantime, we'll still share with leadership, and some of our other advisory groups as we meet, just kind of.
Alright. Anything else on the calendar? And you will let us know if you, Dr. Frazier, if you get any more info from the Region 3 meeting.
Yeah, but I made a note to share this document with what schools around us are doing,
Yeah.
and we can try to get some others filled in.
Alright, on to our action items. First up, we have our expenditures and revenue reports. A motion to approve our expenditures and receive our revenue reports.
So moved.
A motion, we have a second. Second. Second and third. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that opposed, the motion carries. Likewise, our cafeteria expenditures. We have a motion to accept and approve our cafeteria expenditures.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Personnel. Motion to approve our personnel recommendations.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Donations. Nice list of donations there. We have a motion to approve those donations.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have consider approving our VSBA policy services contract for the next year. We have a motion to approve the services contract with VSBA.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion?
Yes. I opposed this last year,
still oppose it. I'm awaiting, I got a preliminary quote from the School Board Member Alliance Association. They're gonna be starting policy services. They are not a lobbyist group. We will not use our funds for lobbying. And the pricing seems to be comparable to the contract here. So I would ask that, and I'm waiting for another quote from another firm as well, that perhaps we table this until I can more details. They're finalizing their policy actually tomorrow night at their board meeting for the School Board Member Alliance one. So I think it's worth looking into. Last year when I raised objections, it seemed to be the conversation was, well, we don't know who else to use. There's nobody else that will do this. Well, there's somebody else that does it, and perhaps excitement. So I think it's worth looking into if we can remove ourselves from as much lobbyist activity as possible to ensure we're having, good, as unbiased as possible input. I think that's what we should do.
I don't know from Robert's rules what's appropriate at this moment.
So since there was no action, if you would like to rescind your motion, you can rescind your motion and delay the initial motion, and that would be.
Can we discuss right now?
Yeah, this
This
is
is
discussion. This is
discussion, okay,
discussion,
I'm just
yeah.
making sure.
Yeah.
So what I'd like is if we could get a little more information from the School Board Member Alliance.
Mhm.
If you could send us some more information on that and maybe some references on their work.
Well, they're new, so
Okay.
their policy services is a new service that they're going to be offering.
The group's not new, right?
The group was formed a year or two ago. No, they're a pretty new group, I believe.
And they're just in Virginia?
As far as I know, they're just in Virginia.
Is there any sort of deadlines that we're trying to hit? I know obviously we've got obligations for maintaining policy requirements, but as far as making movement, anybody do you have?
I don't believe that there's a timeline. I can double check. I don't remember if that was in the letter that was sent from ESPN.
We would potentially go without having policy updates for a month, then, is that what it would be?
Potentially.
I mean, this VSBA policy doesn't say that we can't terminate at any time.
But we would be making a payment for a year. So we're paying for a year of services.
Right, would there be like a prorated refund based off services provided?
Those are questions we have to reach out to ESPN and answer.
I mean, I really don't, from all of the policy updates that I've reviewed over the last year, the majority, most of them are changing words here and there. And I don't think that us not having a service for a month is gonna be crucial. There's no new legislators just now in session, so I feel like if there's any bills that come to pass, it's not gonna happen in a month.
So Patrice, if you want to rescind your motion and we can then we can collect more information, the clerks can send that information out and we can address it at our February meeting. And also board members have, information that they want to discuss on our work session. So we have two of those coming as well.
Advocacy, shoot.
That's okay.
How did you source these? Is it just like Google?
No. So School Board Member Alliance is the training I went to last year, and they had said that they were, and I asked them, I said, well, what about policy services? At the time, they said, well, we don't have anything in place, but we're looking into it. And then, I inquired again when I saw this was on our agenda, and they said, we're actually meeting on Wednesday, to finalize what they're offering. And then I asked, some other people who are on school boards if they had any other people that they use besides VSBA, and that was the other one that was recommended to me. I apologize for not having the name off the top of my head, but I know the pricing the pricing for SB, the school board member alliance it's around the same amount. This is 2,100, I think she quoted me 2,500. And the other one, I don't have any numbers, but nothing's final until their meeting tomorrow for the
So-
school board member alliance.
What they're gonna provide you is full scope of services, and
Mhm.
what would be under that
Yes,
fee.
right.
I'm willing to reset my motion so that we have time to consider. VSBA Code of Conduct. We are, if we're not contracting with VSBA, should we table these as well?
We can, and we're also,
I was just gonna say, I think the code of conduct is pretty standard document. I think it's important for us to go ahead and make a commitment to, something like that. That, my thought would be, we could move forward with that. I don't think that in any way would be, it's a good document.
and that has no ties to
Yeah,
VSBA.
it's not,
That is a template that they provide us.
exactly.
Okay, so
It's
these,
an ethical.
these are ours.
Yeah.
This is what we're agreeing to, regardless of whether
Right.
VSBA exists or not.
So I do think it's a little bit confusing that we have at the top of it, VSBA, and I mentioned this to Dr. Frazier, that maybe in our planning sessions, maybe for next year, we can just come up with our own form that we just use internally. Cause I don't know, it confuses me every time, why am I agreeing to VSBA's when it should just be West Point, West Point School Board Code of Conduct.
I think it's,
Yeah.
I think this one.
Yeah, but all of it that's on it is,
And so if that is also the case, we can amend this, we can change this form before we collect signatures. If we're saying we want to approve the code of conduct, we can change it, we can remove, we can strike through VSBA at the document. And so if that's the case, I would just ask that the motion states that we want to approve the school board code of conduct with the strike through of VSBA at the top.
So moved.
what he said.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And similarly for the school board clerk, we have a revised.
Yes, we will strike through VSBA and make that West Point Public Schools code of conduct.
So we,
Would that change number 3 on it?
Yeah. Got a notification to the SBA.
That is up to the board. The reason that the notification is there is because VSBA just wants an updated directory, so they can be able to send communications out to board members. So board members receive the newsletter daily, board members receive information about trainings. So that's why they asked the court to update.
And they send that to all board members in the whole state, no matter what?
whether you
Whether-
subscribe to their services. or
Right.
not. Right.
Okay.
So it sounds like it's for housekeeping contact. Okay. So do we, have a motion to approve the code of conduct, revised form of strike through VSBA or template?
So moved.
Got a motion to second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. All right. Our committee.
will see at your seat a short description of the committees. And currently,
Do we have any changes to what we're already on?
no, so currently, Ms. Braxton serves on the Middle Peninsula Regional Special Education Advisory. Mr. Evans, serves on the Virgin Communities. Ms. Sturts serves on the HERDA board. Mr. Jenkins serves on the Keyway Parks and Recreation. Mr. Ms. Streets serves on the Arts Alliance.
Is there any desire to change? Does anyone wish to switch? Barter, trade? Okay, we can make that easy, then can we just have a motion to, for each board member to continue, appointment to their parent?
So moved.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And our program of studies for 24-25 school year, we've had the opportunity to review. Recommendations or changes?
Page 8, says 2023. Something like that. You do.
We will make that change.
All right.
It's on the actual PDF version.
Oh.
The page number.
I don't know where that is.
So it's on page 5 at the
Oh.
bottom,
Okay.
in virtual courses.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve the 24-25 program of studies with the, edits from the trees there?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Informational items, Dr. Frazier, anything with? No? Okay, so we have our next meeting will be our budget session. Combined,
Yes, we will, well, Dr. Baker will join our work session.
on the 30th. Okay. Second session on the 13th, and then our general meeting. All right. Anything else?
For the delegations.
I will put another announcement out shortly regarding school tomorrow.
Really vague, but okay.
All right,
Well,
stay
operate,
tuned.
we'll operate on this other way tomorrow.
Okay.
So if there's anyone listening on YouTube, there you go. You heard
Hey.
it first. There you go.
First breaking
Still not
news.
snow.
Yeah,
Breaking news.
that's right. Yeah, still didn't count, right?
No, still not snow.
Make sure you like the Facebook page.
Yeah. All right, if there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.